Thank you, Yosef. I want to talk about the topic of integrity. In halakha, well, I suppose the halachic requirement for integrity. Nowadays, we live in a world in which, marketing, presenting yourself, social media is a very, very important aspect of how people live their lives. There's me, and then there's the me that I want to project to the world. Marketing used to be a skill that some people were involved in, other people were not involved in, but nowadays it's sort of the sort of topic that everybody has to be involved in. But whenever I'm involved in marketing, I may compromise my integrity in order to make it a good story, in order to, present something that may not be 100% accurate, but it fits a certain narrative that I want to project. Unfortunately, if you remember, sweet, holy people, the reason why we're talking about this topic today is because there's a war going on, but the war's taking place on the battlefield. Unfortunately, it's also taking place in world, public opinion. And I don't know, marketing and integrity, that clash isn't really a dilemma that we can avoid. It's not really a discussion that we can say, that's not part of my world. So I want to talk about some guidelines for in maintaining integrity as well as promoting a message when it comes to marketing on the one hand, integrity on the other hand, and see how those two things play out. Now, the way that we're going to do it is that we're going to look together at three pieces of Gemara. The reason why we can look at these three pieces of Gemara is only because these are three pieces of Gemara that I happen to have studied recently. I mean, not that recently, but I came across these three pieces of Gemara, and there could be 100. I'm sure there's many, many more important, pieces from from rabbinic literature that could add a huge amount. But this is a start. Three aspects of the discussion that I want to learn with you together. They're on a sheet. The photocopier wasn't excellent today, so I'm not sure how well you can see the adverts at the top of the page. Can you see the adverts at the top of the page?
We had this before, huh? I remember it before. Yeah.
Oh yes, this is not the first time we've discussed this. Okay. Yeah, that is true. Good. But we'll make it new. Yashan mit chadesh, hachadash mit kadesh. Okay, so if you have a look at these various adverts over here, on the one hand, I have to promote myself, but on the other hand, you have to maintain integrity. You follow? Like everyone's interested in presenting a certain image, but on the other hand, you have to be true. You have to be honest. But if I'm brutally honest all the time, so then it'll be hard to have that edge. You follow? So the question is, what guidelines might I want to take in order to make sure that I get it right? So we're going to look at three pieces of Gemara on this topic. I'm going to look at the first one, the Gemara in Bava Metzia, Daf Samach Amud Aleph, tells a teaching from Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Lo yechalek hachenvani kliot ve'egozin letinokot mipnei shuhu margilan lavo etzlo v'chachamim matirim. So the debate is it appropriate for a shopkeeper to give out freebies? And really, I'm only giving out freebies not because you're a wonderful person and I want to help you out, but I want you to come into my shop. The modern equivalent might be a lost leader. Like you sell, I don't know, something that's worth 20 shekel, you send it for 5 shekel, and everyone goes, oh, wow, that's a bargain. And then I've got them in my shop. And then once they're in my shop, well, then I can, then they'll buy everything else they need. You follow? So it's worth it for me to give up those 15 shekels, or I'm going to give out, to kids, it's terrible. When you go to a checkout in shops, have you noticed all the sweets are all
Yeah.
by the checkout,
Yeah.
and they're all at the level of children?
Mhm.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Well, it's exactly. I mean, it's really this. You follow? I mean, how could I not buy my kid this egozi bar, whatever it is? You follow? So question. So that's exactly the debate. Rabbi Yehuda says you can't do that sort of stuff. That's just not the way we do things. Why? Shemar gilan lavo etzlo. You're sort of luring people to you, enticing people, but they're not coming because you provide a good service, but you're luring them. You follow? Those are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, I'm sorry. The Chachamim say, no, it's fine. Chachamim allow it. You hear the debate? Anyone have any comments on that? Where are you holding there?
I just noticed as well in Rami Levi, the bread is in the very far.
Yeah,
You have to walk.
milk and bread are always at the other side
You
of
have
the
to
shop.
walk like all of the products before you get to the bread.
To the essential.
Nachon.
Because the people just only wanted bread and they have to go
Machon.
through
Machon.
everything.
There's a lot of, it's terrible how much we're manipulated. Maybe you shouldn't read this too much. Even the music they put, the music that's in shops is also to entice, people to walk slowly. If it was fast moving, you walk quickly. You may not notice this or that. So that's really all this sort of stuff. Beseder or lo beseder. You feel can you feel the tension? Are you living in the tension? Rabbi Yehuda, Chachamim. That's it. Are you more of a Rabbi Yehuda or more of a Chachamim?
Chachamim say it's okay.
Chachamim say it's allowed.
Okay.
I should say it's
I would
okay.
agree.
You're with them.
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily with the children's case that like you put like those sweets right next to the checkout where like the children want to see it right away and want to like convince the parents to buy them. So
Right.
It's a little bit I think too far because like children like can be very nagging like towards the parents and it's hard for parents to say no. Sometimes.
You've been in too many supermarkets.
I work in the supermarket.
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh.
So I know
You
from experience.
you did
Yeah,
it.
yeah, of course.
This is a manager.
But
You stuck the bread at the other side. Nachon, you stuck it there.
for some time, yes.
Didn't
But
purpose.
like music and
Is that true about the music? They do.
yeah, of course. Yeah, they do
Like-
it, of course, like it's only smart to you want your customer to be feel comfortable in your market, right? In your supermarket. Anything that helps to make them more comfortable is I think it's legit and it's allowed. to
Right,
do.
right.
Because like you what's the word? The other supermarkets could do the same thing if they were.
Oh,
It's like competition, so yeah. And also to put like the essential food goods in corners where people have to go through the market, it's also legit. Like I mean, if you know what you need, you go through market without buying anything else. If you are not as I don't know how should I say like
self-control.
exactly, then it's on you.
Nachon.
I would say.
But the supermarket does well out of it.
Okay.
But you're saying it's fine. You don't see any problem with
Yeah,
this.
I think,
Partly because you ran a supermarket.
exactly.
And you made excellent. I forgot
Yeah,
about that,
it's tricky.
David. That is such an important
Tricky,
person to talk about this.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any thoughts on this? Are you with David?
I agree with him. It's like when we say like competition, it's not just your like a neighbor, like Jewish competition. It's also the non-Jewish.
Sure.
competition. So for sure, if they know about this trick, they will have like more sales if you follow the halakha of the other. So I would agree with him.
Very interesting. Anyone? Any other?
This example they give is targeting kids specifically makes me pause a little bit.
Because it's
That's
like
the-
it's
Yeah, I agree.
I
with
wish
that.
they would. Yeah.
I agree with that. Like
that's you.
And-
Even
and the
you said that
advertising, yeah, because, like,
about having the
children
kids.
are like they see something and they want it. Like they don't have the sechel to say okay, my parents maybe don't have the money or maybe it's not good for me because it's so much sugar or whatever. Like they see something and they know it tastes good or it looks good. The advertisement is like cut for them to be to target them specifically, and then the children snack from the parents until they
Sure.
get what they want.
Sure.
And,
I mean,
It's like-
that's
it's
not
like-
the
it's
right
like-
thing to do.
sorry?
But it's a
Ah,
shame
yeah,
if
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they end up doing.
Exactly,
But
yeah. So I think that's a little bit slippery. That's not quite.
I hear that. I hear your.
Anything that goes towards children is very
It's sort of like a bit manipulative.
exactly, yeah, because children are much more susceptible to
Yes,
anything like that.
true.
If you think about advertisement or like algorithms made by large companies in a way, like the
that's
difference in levels, we could be like children towards, like because it feels like an unfair advantage that the seller has towards the kids, but in the same way, also we could be at a disadvantage to a lot of advertising towards us today. Yeah.
I know it's scary. I know it's probably something that's not healthy to think about. How much what we think is an independent decision is actually very strongly influenced by very subtle advertising that I never noticed. Machon Yisrael, Mata Choshev.
Initially, before in Hong Kong, I had company sell the interior design and construction, not sell the product, but I don't know how to sell. The meaning is just sell the my reference profile. Just sell the you call before my client, give me the phone number. You call them, you understand? You call the old client.
Right.
Yeah, and then but mainly Hashem. Why? And before 10 years ago, I first time come Israel, and before I had the partner together, I just design and management. My partner is very good sales, very good talk, but very interesting. I come Israel and separate with him because different religious, but I don't know how to get the job. But Hashem give me the job more than before with him.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
You mean without the salesperson, you're more successful?
No, I'm not salesman.
No, I mean without him, you've become as successful as with him.
Yeah. So very interesting.
That is
Yeah,
interesting.
very interesting. Before I just sell my profile, just the office. But after I separate with the partner,
Yeah.
some give me more than 2 different the interior design business for the medical clinic.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then beauty salon.
Your point, but it's sort of separate to this, is like a hashkafa point that you're saying, don't need to go to too much effort. God decided that you're going to your income will be X, and that income is fixed from above. I mean, I think that certainly this period that we're living in now makes it so abundantly clear how much we are absolutely dependent on God's will and God's hand. I mean, as if we didn't know it already, but we feel it every day in a very powerful way. And that's really the same principle. But it's not, the question is that which one, are we more with Rabbi Yehuda or are you more with the Chachamim? Now, the Gemara explains, and this is really what David was saying, how is it that the rabbis allow you to really manipulate the children? It sounds terrible. My Tamai de Rabban, and why don't they say it's permitted to give sweets to the children? Da Amarle, because sales per, shop 1 can say to shop 2 are now at the bottom of the first page. Ana maflikna amgoze. I give out plums. I give out nuts, sorry. Agoze va'at palik shiski, and you can give out a different. I give out one thing. You give out, but what I'm doing is not different to what you're doing. And indeed, if we have a look at halacha l'maaseh in the Rambam, mutar lachen voni. Do you see at the top of the second page, the shopkeeper is allowed to give out sweets and nuts to children in order to encourage them to come to his shop. So you're doing fine, David. And he even says children. Do you see that? הוא פוחת משאר שבשוק כדי להרבות בכפרי ממנו, ואין בני השוק יכולים לעכב עליו, ואין בזה כנאבת הדת. That's not considered as misleading somebody. I think everybody knows it's a trick. You know what I mean? It's not manipulation, but it's quite overt, and the overt method that I'm doing is this. You can also do the same thing. So people will choose, tachlis. People are going to choose the best deal, right? So if he's giving out a sweet A and I give out a sweet B, then we'll just build up until, the person that's just better at reading the market and knowing what to draw people, but that skill needs to be promoted. I think it's very interesting, this piece of Gemara, because it sort of informs this clash between integrity and marketing. You can't be too strict and say you can't do anything, because then how will anyone ever be able to open a shop? How will there ever be competition? We'll live in a monopoly where one person runs everything. You need to have the possibility for innovation, for creativity, for this one coming up with this and that. So it's sort of allowing for that creativity and allowing me to maintain my integrity, but also to get involved in marketing. Is that clear? I'll just conclude though, this first, we can look at 3, finish number 1, with a story where I grew up in London, they actually did rule against a shop. It's a slightly different scenario, but it's very, very interesting. There was, in London, where I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood in London, and when I was a little boy, there were 2 huge Jewish kosher supermarkets, one next to the other. And one of the kosher supermarkets, we'll call it Kosher Supermarket A, was owned by one of the local Jewish families. And Kosher Supermarket number 2 was owned by a non-Jewish family. But they just realized that the market for kosher food is huge. And even though they weren't Jewish, they ran this huge kosher supermarket in London. And there was always a debate within the Jewish community: should we be supporting the Jewish supermarket, or should we be supporting the non-Jewish one? And let's say the non-Jewish one is much cheaper than the Jewish one. Is it wrong for me to go to the non-Jewish one? And people were really quite torn by that, because on the one hand, the non-Jewish one keeps the prices in the Jewish one down. But if the Jewish one was there by itself, they may have taken advantage of it. So it was quite an interesting balance. You hear that? Yeah. Then something happened, and it really perhaps even connected to this Gemara, that led to a decision to buy the Jewish and not the non-Jewish. Subsequently, the non-Jewish supermarket closed down, and now there is only that one big Jewish supermarket in the neighborhood. Maybe I shouldn't have told you the end of the story already, but that's it. Anyway, so one year, and I remember this, when I was a little boy, it was Pesach. Now, as you know, a kosher supermarket sells all the kosher food, but then, like a week or 2 weeks before Pesach, they have to go through this huge upheaval, because they have to get rid of all the chometz and bring in all the kosher for Pesach food. So every kosher supermarket has to be closed for about a day in order to do the switchover. You follow? Yeah. So the non-Jewish kosher supermarket understood that the best day to do that is Shabbat. So 2 weeks before Pesach on the Shabbat, and this is in the middle of the Jewish community, like all the trucks started coming and everything was closed, and the shop was open, they were scrubbing away. But of course they can, because it's fine for them. And then the following day, the Sunday, everything was sparking, everything was open. The supermarket was open for everybody to come in, and the Jewish supermarket was closed. And because they were spending that Sunday during the switchover. But once I've gone there, and the Jewish supermarket lost a lot of money as a result of that day. And then subsequently, the following Shabbat, this had been going on for many years. The rabbis in the various shuls, when they spoke in shul, they suggested, you can't say don't shop in a different place, but they spoke about the importance of promoting Jewish businesses. But it's partly because of this Gemara over here. You see how that's a perfect example of me utilizing something that they couldn't have done. And therefore that gives me an unfair advantage. So to have an advantage is fine, but it's an unfair advantage that would take away a little bit from my integrity. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, that's point number one. Any comments on point number one? Any ha'arot on point number one? Any final thoughts on point number one? Joy, happiness? As much as... Okay, let's move on to point number two. Point number two is talking about how to market products. I had no idea, by the by, about how big marketing is. I've got a friend, somebody that I know. He's a very, very, very interesting chap. He lived in New York. He made Aliyah from New York to Jerusalem. And do you know what his job was in New York? He was a celebrity photographer. Do you know what celebrity photographers are? They hear that some celebrity is going to be somewhere or other, and then they show up and they get a good picture, and then they sell it. And if you have a good picture, he once said, a good exclusive picture can support you for a year. Anyway, so he worked for 6 years as a celebrity photographer in New York.
Wait, it was legal that you can make just pictures of the celebrities without any...
I don't know how. I don't know. I imagine that there are... Yes, I think he was following some sort of rules, because he once said that there was once a picture that he got the picture, and another photographer also got the same picture, but he followed whatever protocol needs to be followed, so he could use his picture, and the other guy didn't, and therefore he couldn't use his, so he was an exclusive. So I don't know anyway, it doesn't really matter the details of what he did there. He then made Aliyah. And if you work as a celebrity photographer in New York and you make Aliyah to Jerusalem, it's a difficult transition. You follow? It's not a sort of profession that you could, it's not as transferable. Anyway, so do you know what he started doing in Israel? And it leads us to our next subject. I had no idea that it was such a big thing. He became a product photographer. So let's say I develop a new toothpaste. So then you hire a photographer whose job it is to take the picture of the toothpaste that's going to be on a... Anyway, so he took his skills as a celebrity photographer and he became a product photographer. So now the question is, when you take pictures of a product, how honest do you need to be when you take the picture? For example, I remember when I was a kid, I heard this. It could be rubbish. Cornflakes. You have cornflakes in milk, and they have a picture of cornflakes on the, on the carton. But it's not cornflakes in milk. It's cornflakes in glue.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen like a lot of trick about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and let's say you see a picture. You've probably seen this many times. Often the picture of the product, especially food, outside, doesn't look quite as big on the inside. Like burger and chips. So the picture of the chips on the pic is like overflowing. Can't see anything but chips. But then when you order the burger and chips, there's like 3 chips somewhere or other. And then like this, like the burger, and then it's but you know what I mean? Yeah. So the question over here is, what's an ethical way to market products, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. When I take a picture or when I market, to what extent does the picture need to represent the product? You hear the problem?
Yeah.
We're moving away from your supermarket. I'm sorry about that. But these are the guys that would come to you.
Yeah.
And you could motivate them. I'm not selling this. Call this a... Anyway.
So what I would say is, I mean, the thing with the size is, I think, very, very, it's not nice, because like you're basically lying on the amount which you're selling. Like if the picture is like, I don't know, double amount that which actually is inside, that's not the right thing to do. But to make like a very good picture of a product that has no blemishes, and the reproduct, especially with like a natural product, it has here and there some blemishes, I think that's fair. For example, an apple, like you have like an apple on, if you sell it in a carton or whatever, and there's like a picture of a very like perfect apple without any blemishes. Then inside the apples are a little bit, there's like a scratch here or this and that.
Yeah, but you know that. Yeah, I see that.
Like I think that's
So you're making a distinction between the
also like
the
the
chips.
cornflakes thing, for example.
That's okay or not okay.
Make it look like, even though like the picture was made with glue or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's like in milk, even though in milk it would never look like as good like that. But
That's okay.
I think that would, because like.
So what's the line? What's the line for you?
It's a good hard question to define, I guess.
You have like a sense that like this feels right. That's. But I want to. Does anyone have any ideas on the line?
Not sure how to define it.
Oh, luckily we have a Gemara here, which is amazing. Any ideas on the line? You hear the question though. It's such a difficult one. Here, let's look at now at source number 2. I say source number 2, but yeah, like subject number 2. It's also Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara says like this: Ein mefar chasin lo et ha'adam v'lo et ha'behema v'lo et ha'kelim. Okay, this is from the Mishnah. You're not allowed, unfortunately, it's talking about a time where people were selling slaves as well, but you're not allowed to paint. You're not allowed to, to shine, a bit like with cars nowadays, lahavdil. Like to over polish something when you're about to sell it, to give the impression that it's squeaky clean, or like that it's better than it is. So the rabbis taught, Tanu Rabbanan, Ein mashar betin et habehema. You're not allowed to like move an animal to make it look like firm. Ve'ein nofchin bikravim. You're not allowed to. This goes to a little bit about the chips, whatever you call them. You're not allowed to blow up or inflate. Like sometimes. Like with a burger, you like can blow air into it, so it like goes bigger than it is. I just made that up. I have no idea if they do that, but you know what I mean. You can't artificially inflate something to give it the impression that it's bigger than it really is. You shouldn't soak meat in water to make it look fresher than it is. So what's the problem? So it goes to all these details that I think we won't talk about now, because it's really not the stuff that we do nowadays. You see, in Bavel, they used to talk about various things that they would use to make an animal look healthier than it is, or more attractive. When you go to the like the cattle market, it would make things look much better than they really, really are. But the Gemara says in the Breita that there's certain things that you're allowed to do that in the Mishnah we were told you're not allowed to do. So if you have a look over here, we said, you see over here, Shmuel, Shara lemimra tume lesarbala. which means he allowed people to put fringes on a cloth to make it look better. Rabbi Yehuda shora lekuse karme. Rabbi Yehuda allowed people to put a gloss onto cloths. And then Rabba shara lemedak sarde. Again, they seem to be making things look better than they really are. Rava shara litzlume gire. He said you would be allowed to paint baskets. Rav Papa bar Rav Shmuel shara litzlume dikule. Sorry, that was the baskets. Rav Papa, the son of Shmuel, would allow them to paint baskets. So we have in the Gemara that says that you're not allowed to make things look better than they are. So you're not allowed to soak meat, you're not allowed to paint the animals. But then afterwards we see that Rav Zairi said you're allowed to brush the animal, you're allowed to paint things, you're allowed to put gloss on things. So how do we reconcile the Mishnah that really permitted, the Mishnah that forbade artificial enhancement of products before we sell them? And then we read this list of rabbis in Babylon that did paint and gloss and put, comb and soak in water. They did lots of activities that enhance a product before you sell it. So do we say you are allowed to enhance or you're not allowed to enhance? So luckily for you, they also struggle with the line because it's not clear cut. Like you say, like the glue, well, the glue's okay, but the chips, that's not okay. Well, what's the difference? So why is it that some things we are allowed to enhance and other things we're not allowed to enhance? So the Gemara explains like this. The Gemara says, Lo kashya, ha b'chadati, ha ba'atike. He says, it's fine. What's the difference? One is talking about new items, and the other one is talking about old items. What's the difference between an old item and a new item? So the Gemara explains like this. It's very, very clever. And I think you could probably apply it nowadays. Well, let's talk. The easiest example is a car, right? When I buy a new car, so I know what the new car is. The Gemara says, when the rabbi said you're allowed to polish things, they were talking about a new item. Because everyone knows what a new car is. So you can polish it a bit more, polish it a bit less, spike it. But tachlis, it's a new car. And I may attract people to buy it if it's shinier, but everyone knows exactly what I'm getting. You follow? And that's really the key. But in an old car, and I start polishing it, maybe my polishing might be hiding something. You follow? And that's forbidden. So it's a really clever little line. I'm allowed to polish the new car, to make it more attractive. If it rained and it's filthy, no one's going to buy it, even though it's new. So I'm going to polish it and I'm going to shine lights on it and I'm going to hire my product placement photographer. He can take pictures because everyone knows what that is. You follow? It's not going to be a surprise. So I can do this product enhancement on anything that everyone knows what it is. You follow? Let's say with a toothbrush, like a thing of toothpaste, so you can take a big. Everyone knows what you're going to get, like the new car. But when an old car, so then the product placement might be covering up something that I don't want, that the seller doesn't want people to see. So when my product picture is hiding something, then it's a problem. That's the key. Is the product picture to hide something, or is it not to hide something? And I would humbly suggest, based on what you were saying earlier, that with the cornflakes with glue, that's fine. Because no one's expecting it to hang up there. Yeah. It's only because it takes half an hour to take the picture. And as soon as you pour the milk in, it gets soggy. Yeah. So I won't get the picture. But I'm not hiding something about but with the chips, if I take a picture of this overflowing and I was, I want chips, I'm going to get that. And then they give you 3 mute, then I'm hiding something, that would be a problem. Okay. So the question is my product picture hiding something? And if it is, that's forbidden. But if my product picture is not hiding anything, then it's fine. Isn't that brilliant? Comments?
I'm
Done.
thinking about things that are resold. I mean, there's like examples of products where it's something in between new and used, like a shop like Etsy or something where people take materials and turn it into something too.
Which shops? I don't know that shop.
Oh, it's online. It's online crafts where people use their
Okay.
abilities to resell things, but also a bit of their artistic. But I can understand there's probably some cases where this is very tricky.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But the logic makes sense.
Yeah, I think yeah. It's a sort of thing, and I think David was saying that. Let's say you have like a moral sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain pictures that I know is wrong, and the others that I know are fine. It's just hard for me to place my finger on it, and it's probably the same over here as well. But when I'm hiding, that's the issue. If the guy is hiding something, then it's a problem. But if they're not hiding anything, they're just trying to present the product in the most, in the best possible light, then it's fine. That makes
about the, let's say, the advertisement is like very fine and very good, but all of a sudden there's like a small word on the advertisement that it's this is the size of it in the picture, but this is the actual size. Like you what you're looking is not the one that you're getting. It's this size. You didn't read it, but you just bought the product, and all of a sudden you're shocked because you're expecting it's large, and then there's like a little word in there. It's very like not visible, almost not visible, and then you become disappointed. Is it like
yeah, that's a problem. I'll give you an example of that actually.
okay?
It's similar to that. So I remember when I was a little boy. Well, there's lots of memories today. When I was a little boy in the kosher shop, they used to sell grape juice to make kiddush, right?
Yeah.
And the bottles of grape juice cost, let's say, 20 shekel for a bottle of grape juice, and it's a liter of grape juice, right? So that's amazing. 20 shekel for a bottle of grape juice. One week, my mother came into the shop, and they had this huge sign saying, grape juice, now 17 shekel. 17 shekel, that saves 3 shekels. Like, oh, we're gonna utilize, because it doesn't go off. Let's stock up on grape juice.
Okay.
And then when she came home, she noticed that the grape juice wasn't a liter anymore. It was 750 milliliters. So it had a big sign saying grape juice reduced to 17 shekel, and then like in tiny words at the bottom, 750 milliliters.
Right. That's like shrinkflation. Right?
Yes, shrinkflation. Shrinklation.
Shrinkflation, like inflation, but
Yeah.
shrinkflation, because
Yeah,
it's like when
exactly.
you have the same packages, or the same package, like the same size of package, but the amount inside comes less and less and less over time.
Yes,
For the
exactly.
same price.
That's
Or
such a
this
good
case,
word.
different.
Shrinkflation.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Shrinkflation. That was exactly. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
No, but it's saying that's I'm hiding something. You know what I mean? Anything that's in small
But
letters,
it's,
no one can read it.
Technically speaking, it's not hidden. Like,
I know.
it's,
Also, hidden's tricky. Because you can say it's not hidden, I wrote it. But you didn't really, whatever. Yeah, it's complicated. It's
Okay. In
'Cause,
this case, yeah. Also, like
shrinkflation. I like that very much.
this is a different case though. Shrinkflation. This is not a shrinkflation case more. It's like no. It's yeah. It's just like an adjustment of the. It's like a different product actually. Like in the case of the grape juice that the Raf just said.
Yeah.
It's like a new product basically. It's just the only confusion is because one is used to buy the same place probably the grape juice for 1 liter for 20 shekels, and now people usually only look for the price and they see it's 70 shekels. That causes confusion. That's the only problem, I guess. If there would be like a proper
Yes.
notice that notification that there's actually like the product is also smaller, shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a very... Yeah, no, I hear that. But I suppose that I know that the shrinkflation, which I love very much, such a lovely term, and this what we're discussing now is the same sort of idea that when I'm hiding something in my marketing, that's a problem. You follow? I'm allowed to enhance a product. So if I want to sell a new car, I'm allowed to make it as glamorous as possible, and I'm allowed to get pictures for like I'm allowed to market a product. But when my marketing is hiding something, that's a problem. You follow? I think that seems to be the principle from what we read. The Gemara that we read is translated into halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. So I want to read to you what the Shulchan Aruch says, which is the continuation really of the Gemara that we saw. Asur leramot b'nei adam. You're not allowed to cheat people. B'mekach u'v'memkar, when you're involved in commerce, v'lo lignov da'atam, or to mislead them. Cohn, for example, im yesh mum b'mekachot tarich lehodio lelakech. If the item being sold has got something wrong in it, you have to tell the customer. Avim hu oved kochavim, even if that person is a non-idol worshipper. Lo im kolo basar nevela b'chezkat shchutai. So let's say a non-Jew wants to buy kosher meat. So you can't tell him non-kosher meat and tell him it's kosher meat. Because as you know, kosher meat is more expensive. But you can't say, oh yeah, this is from us. So about, oh, that's nice. Because even that is misleading, because even if it's not a mum for him, you follow? What does it matter to him how the shechita was? Yeah, he doesn't follow like a Reuben shechita. He can eat whatever he likes. So you can't sell non-kosher food and tell them it's kosher, even for an idol worshiper. Okay, you can't mislead people. We're going to move on to that topic of mislead. Well, we go from hiding to misleading. Now, this third example, before we get to number 3, everything clear in number 2? The line clear?
Yeah.
Is that hiding or not hiding? Any comments, he'arot, on point number 2 before we move to point number 3? Okay. Now, point number 3, in contrast to point numbers 1 and 2, does not have a clear decision. So I'm afraid to say we're going to leave you with that niggling feeling at the end of really dilemma number 3. And it's really very hard to say what the right thing to do is. You hear? So I'm afraid to say we're going to leave you on a little bit of a question at the end. Okay, let me tell you the third. So the third one is quite straightforward. I'm going to read it to you, the Gemara in English. Is that? Oh, someone else. Do you see at the bottom of page number 3 is the Gemara? Would somebody like to read the Gemara? Is that okay?
The English one?
Yeah, the English one.
It was taught.
It's from the Gemara in Chulin.
Rabbi Meir?
Yes, it was taught.
It was taught. Rabbi Meir used to say, a man should not urge his friend to dine with him when he knows that his friend will not do so, and he should not offer him many gifts when he knows that his friend will not accept them, and he should not open for a guest cask of wine which are to be sold by the shopkeeper unless he informs the guest of it, and he should not invite him to anoint himself with oil if the jar is empty. If, however, the purpose is to show the guest great respect, it is permitted. But surely this cannot be right. For Ulla once came to rob Judah's house, and the latter opened up for him casks that were later to be sold by the shopkeeper. He must have informed him of this act, or if you wish, I can say that the case of Ulla is different, for he was so dear to Rabbi Yehuda that he would have opened for him even those that were not to be sold by the shopkeeper.
Excellent. That's really misleading. I mean, that the truth is, the Gemara that we just saw, there's really very little debate on that. You can't offer somebody something knowing that they won't take you up on the offer. Because you appear magnanimous when really you know that you're not going to have to do it. You follow? Like you're really giving the impression that you are something that you're not. I mean, you may be, but your invitation is not a genuine invitation. If we were talking before about the concept of integrity, here it's clear that you're misleading somebody else. You know the truth and you're misleading them because you are initiating, because you're saying, would you like A? And knowing that they're not going to take it. Like somebody who doesn't drink, you offer them, this is an amazing whiskey, I opened it especially for you because you're such an honored guest, but he's not going to touch it. So he'll say, wow, this guy really likes me. But really, I knew that you would not have touched it anyway, and I probably wouldn't have given it to you. You follow? Now that is quite a clear case. It's quite obvious what the right thing to do is and what the wrong thing to do is. That to offer something to somebody else in the knowledge that they won't take it is misleading. Things get slightly more complicated in the reverse scenario that we'll read next. What's the reverse scenario? The reverse scenario is where he has developed, he's judging me more favorably than I am, but not because of something that I said, but because of something that he thought. So, in the first situation, I initiated by saying, would you like, A, knowing that you won't take it. But what happens if his favorable impression of me is not because of something that I said or I did, but rather because the way that he saw me? You follow? So look at this. Do you want to read the next piece of Gemara? And this is a much more complicated situation.
Marzutra, son of Rav Nachman,
A crazy story.
was going from Sikhara to Mahuza, while Rabbi and Rav Safra were going to Sikhara, and they met on the way. Believing that they had came to meet him, he said, "Why did the rabbis take this trouble to come so far to meet me?" Rav Safra replied, "We did not know that the master was coming. Had we know of it, we should have put ourselves out more than this." Rabbi said to him, "Why did you tell him this? You have now upset him." He replied, "But we would be deceiving him otherwise." No, he would be deceiving himself.
Do you understand the story? It's a crazy, crazy story. There's two rabbis. Do you follow? Just to explain, Marzutra was traveling from Sikara to Machuza. Right? Marzutra was a very important rabbi, and on the way, he met Rava and Rav Safra. Now, when Marzutra met Rava and Rav Safra, Marzutra, assumed that they had left the town in order to welcome Marzutra as a appreciation of his greatness. So when Marzutra saw these two rabbis, when he saw Rava and Rav Safra, so Marzutra said to Rava and Rav Safra, "Oh, guys, that is so sweet of you to schlep all the way out here to greet me." So he came up with it. You follow? That is such a tricky situation. What do you do then? You're stuck. Because if you say, "Well, actually, we didn't go out for you," you are insulting him. You follow? I'm sorry, we never knew you were coming. But then, on the other hand, if you don't say anything, you're deceiving him. You hear the problem? That situation is a really tricky situation, because here we have Marzutra could have a greater appreciation of Rava and Rav Safra, a greater appreciation of them than they deserve. But he created it, not them. As opposed to the first half. Atem shomim et zeh? Okay, what would you any thoughts on this? Any insights? This Gemara is left. Oh my gosh, it's so tricky. Matem choshvim. You've all been somewhere like that, nachon? Everyone's not exactly that, but it's not a position that's a million miles away from our life experiences. Any insights, any guidelines, any thoughts?
So it appears that the rabbi has been like humiliated because they tell them that we
Yes.
didn't
So
come here
Rava
to
said
live here.
to Rav Safra, why did you say that? Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you just insult? But he said, well, I can't. I have to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Whew. You hear the problem?
Yeah.
I mean, like, isn't it like the concept like one can say a lie in order to preserve shalom?
Ah,
Something like
that is true.
So it's like they would say, "Oh yeah, we gladly did so. We gladly come to meet you."
No, but normally a lie, let's say I'm allowed to lie, but
And it's
I'm not normally allowed to lie in a way that I would benefit. So that the first lie, the great lie, not lie, I mean, kivyochel, with that, is when in next week's in Parshat Vayera, next week, when we'll read about Abraham and Sarah, and then Sarah is laughing, and Abraham asks God, why is Sarah laughing? She was laughing, how my husband is so old. And when God reported to Avraham Avinu, God said to Abraham, the reason why she's laughing is because how can she have a child when she's so old? But God is doing that to protect. Like whenever I benefit from a lie, it's tricky. So here, it's true I would hurt him, but I'm really the beneficiary of the lie. I'm sort of in
or is
a...
it more him because otherwise he would be insulted?
Oh, so tricky. Well, so that's what Rava said.
Yeah.
Said, I didn't deceive him.
Right, he deceived himself. Like,
Rava, exactly.
Said.
Exactly.
He assumed that they come out, they give him the honor. Okay, why not let him in the belief like that? Maybe you can learn something from that for the future and actually behave like that in the future. I say, well, that's just nothing to meet.
But tachlis, but at the end of the day, his impression of me is not accurate. You follow? Meaning the way he views me is not. He thinks more of me than he should. You hear that? Oh my gosh. Whew.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, I'm apologize, not apologize, but it's good to think about things. That our final point doesn't have a clear conclusion that this is the right thing to do and that's the wrong thing to do. Both sides are very strong. I've said this a few times, I'll say it again, that sometimes in life, the trickiest situations are not the situations when I have to navigate a sort of a decision where I'm choosing between right and wrong. When I'm choosing between right and wrong, that is easy. I just need the strength of character to stand up and do the right thing. But it's not beyond human capability, even though it can be challenging, but I know exactly what I need to do. The greater challenge, and this one is really a good example of that, is when I'm faced with a dilemma to choose between the right thing to do and the right thing to do. They're both the right thing to do, you follow? And then when I have to choose, but I can only do one of them, that's when I'm really struggling in a decision. Or I might say here, they're both the wrong thing to do. And then I'm really, really stuck about what to do.
The wrong thing to do?
I'm not choosing. When I'm standing there, when me and Rav, when Rava and Rav Safra are standing there in front of Marazutra, and they're wondering, what should I say? They're not debating between the right thing to say and the wrong thing to say. They're debating between the right thing and the right thing. You follow there? It's a much more difficult dilemma because I'm torn, not because of my Yetzer Hara pulling me this way or that way, but because my Yetzer Hatov it doesn't know where to send me. You hear the problem? I'm afraid to say I don't have the answer to this question, but I like to leave it. I think that I once had a teacher who said something about answers to a question. He said, every time you ask a good question, you open a door. And I can open a door to, oh wow, I never thought about it. My mind is sort of exploring something that it had not explored until now. It's wonderful. It's so engaging. It's an exciting. That's a question. And every time I answer a question, I close the door. That's it. I now understand that. And I think I heard it from somebody called Gila Rosen, who lives in our neighborhood. She taught us many, many years ago. And she said, given the choice between a world of closed doors and a world of open doors, I prefer to be in a world with open doors. So we're going to leave the door open on this final dilemma over here about what's the right thing to do. If somebody thinks greater of me than they should, and I would embarrass them by telling them the truth.
What about purposefully lowering your esteem in their eyes in a different, like leaving that thing and then...
Nico, why do that? Why do that?
So it's fair to yourself.
Oh, no, that's just that.
So I think
There's like two wrongs. Yeah. I think you have to live with either the like, it wasn't me, meaning his impression of me. And the truth is, I like this idea of it's not me deceiving him, it's really him deceiving himself. I don't think any of us really get 100% other people. You know what I mean? Like we create a picture of everyone else that we know, and we join the dots to explain the bits that we don't see. You follow? So in this case, he's just joined a few more dots, but really, human relationships are all about, I don't know the whole picture of anyone. So I join the dots to complete the picture for myself. So here, Marazutra has just completed his dots. You follow? Does that make sense? To what extent is it my responsibility to make sure it is as accurate as possible? That's a very difficult question. Sweet, wonderful people, with that dilemma, we'll conclude our discussion. We looked at 3 important dilemmas when it comes to the question of integrity and marketing, promoting or not promoting. The first one was in David's supermarket, and we were talking about lost leaders and that beautiful balance between creativity, innovation, marketing, that healthy competition that we want to create in the world, and allowing people to engage in marketing on the one hand, and then on the other hand, maintaining my integrity. So long as I don't have an unfair advantage, then it's all permitted. And the only example that I came across was with the supermarkets. When you have the Pesach supermarket, when they did their switchover on Shabbat, there was an unfair advantage, and therefore it wasn't really cricket. Okay, that was the first. The second one was your line. Oh, David, again, trying to figure out the line between marketing that's appropriate, marketing is not appropriate. It really is about, is the picture hiding something or is it not hiding? If the picture's hiding something, then it's a problem. If it is just celebrating something, then that's fine. That's our second point. And then the third one, oy vavoy, that we're still thinking about, and please God, we'll continue pondering the question, that is, when somebody else deceives themselves about me, to what extent do I have to set the record straight? And on that issue, we are left with the dilemma between Rav Safra and Rava after their encounter with Marazutra that remains unresolved, and we will continue pondering it in our halachic journey. Yishar koach to all of you. We'll pause there.